Everybody, welcome back to the channel. Not wasting a lot of time with talking tonight. I need to get moving. Time to fix the old Tumblebug scraper. If you remember back in the last land clearing video, get you out of that glare, last land clearing video that I uploaded, I broke the assist spring bracket. Actually, I lost it. So I need to get that thing fixed. I got it sitting here in front of the shop. I'll probably work this into the land clearing series because it's a part of it, but I like this thing way too much to leave it broken. So probably first order of business is to get this lever and all this linkage off, so I can get in here to these rivets in here and get a new piece of metal fashioned. I've already pre-loosened the two main bolts. Everything on this old stuff usually comes apart pretty nice. I didn't need torches or heat or anything. And I remember what the shape of that piece was. I know what it has to do. I know how it has to come out and curve, and I know what it has to miss. Those are just the types of things that my brain actually latches onto, and I just know. So I'm going to get this whole deal off of here, and we'll see about finding a new piece of steel to go under those rivets. Okay, take this first bolt out up here. It's got some little wear collars on it, flat washers stuff. Kind of some old red or orange paint on those threads. I'm not sure. I have no idea what color this originally was. I don't even know what brand it is. There's no tag on it. There's no identifiers. There are no markings, no numbers, anything. I've kind of done some research too, and I really can't find anything on this. The only other scraper like this I've ever seen is sitting down at Anderson's Rock Creek Relics in Rock Creek, Minnesota. They have one of these as a static display in one of their flower gardens down there. There's no tags on that one either, so I honestly don't know what the brand is, manufacturer, when it was made, but it's kind of my favorite type of Tumblebug that I've ever used, due to the varying amount of cut that you can put into it with this lever. Anyway, second bolt out, and look at this. We have a spare piece floating around. Something else that's broken. Par for the course with this old stuff. Anyway, get our loading lever and linkage out of here. Okay, on the big heavy metal table, here's where that piece has to go, right where these two old rivets are right here. And I'm going to have to also tighten up another rivet that's down here, holds this arm onto this plate. So to best work on this whole thing, I'm going to have to get these two bolts out, remove this plate and arm assembly from the loading lever. There we go. Okay, now for demonstration time. This is how that loading lever works, pivoting this plate. And that assist spring bracket, like I said, goes underneath these two old rivets and goes back that way. From what I remember I've made this template here out of paper. So I will have to make a new piece of steel that's roughly shaped the same size. It kind of follows the leading contour edges up there. And then this part at the back has to make a little bit of a bend and a jog out. So for now, I'm just going to use this template to cut out some fresh steel to go under those rivets. And here is this other original rivet right here that's all loose. I'm going to have to tighten up as long as I have everything here and accessible. I believe I can just reheat that, peen it back over, and tighten it in. I've kind of had my eye on this one for a while, and this is the first time I've had enough room to actually work on it. But we'll address that after I can get my assist spring lever fashioned back on. So to save you all the boring details, I cut the piece of steel out to match the template. So once you take away the unwanted pieces of steel, what I'm left with pretty much matches this, except for the tail end, which I left long right here. I always like to have extra material. It's a lot easier to make it shorter than it is to make it longer again. So the next thing I need to do is put about a 3/4 inch offset in the tail end of this. I'm going to start the bend right about here, and I'm going to utilize this heavy metal table to do it. Okay, pretty simple process to bend this. I just have my piece clamped to the heavy metal table. That provides me with an excellent straight edge, and I have a chunk of angle on top of it with a welding clamp. So basically I'll just heat off the end of the table here. We'll get this thing red and then start bending. About good for a first bend. Good. So now that I'm waiting for that piece to cool, I can prep the main pivot plate, and I need to get these two old rivets out of here that the old bracket was running loose on. I think what I'm going to do, it looks like they are just peened over on the back side. I'm going to support this piece probably around the rivet I want to take out with a socket. Set it up like that. Have another socket of equal height that I can kind of let this thing stand level on. And I'm going to try heating that mashed over end of this rivet and then see if I can drive it down through this plate, see if I can take them out that way. Got it. Okay, I got both those rivets out. They're kind of a curious flat head design, mainly due to clearance. There's not a lot of room for a dome top on those due to all the other components that are so close, but I think I can get something fixed up to replicate those. And at this point, as long as I'm still hot over here, I might as well tighten up this rivet here that goes on to, or that attaches this arm to the main plate. This is the one that I had been watching for a while because it's been wallowing kind of loose in there. And as you can see, when I clamp it tight, quite a bit of it sticks up, and it was not far from pulling through. So I've got this old hunk of scrap steel just for a spacer plate over here. We're clamped down to the metal table. I've got all my slack taken up. So I'm going to do the heat and beat on this thing again. We're going to get this red hot, and I'm confident there's enough material on this that I can just mash it down and fill that void. We don't want to get it so tight that this arm refuses to pivot against this bracket, this plate. We just need to mash that down enough just to take up some of that slack, make sure that's not going to pull through. Okay, that's a lot better. I like that. So while I was waiting for all of this to cool off, I went ahead and finished off my bracket. I have the two mounting holes drilled for where it attaches to the main plate, and I also trimmed the end to length and got a through hole drilled where that spring is going to attach onto it. And I'm going to rivet these two pieces together like it was. I know I can hear you guys saying, why don't you just weld them? That would be the easy way out, but you know what? I like rivets. Rivets look cooler than welds any day. And I've got these domed head rivets. Pretty sure they're going to work just fine, even though the original ones were rather flat. I think I can just take some material off this dome, replicate their design. So I'm going to get busy on getting these pounded in and joining these two pieces, making it one assembly. So here's the plan. I have the new bracket bolted to the main plate, and I have one rivet started in it. You can kind of see how it's going to attach right here. I have it bolted so that it holds everything together. It keeps everything tight, and I'll basically clamp this thing down to the table, making sure that the head of this rivet on the back side is firmly against the tabletop. And we're going to do the heat and beat thing again. I'm going to put the torch on this, get it nice and red hot. And the way this has to attach basically replicates how the original ones were. This material has to get peened down flat, and it's going to fill this small countersink that's around the outside diameter of the hole. That's what's going to hold these rivets in, just like the old ones. And these have to end up just about flush with the face of this plate in order to provide me with the clearance that is necessary for everything to work and pass by here. So let's get it underway. Okay, first rivet went in well. It's just about flush with the face of that plate, so it will do the holding for now. Bolt is out of the other side, and I have the second rivet loaded in and ready to go. Same process for that one. Okay guys, sorry if I'm moving a little bit fast here, but I'm all about getting this project done. Second rivet is in. It peened over very well. And this is what we have. I've replaced the missing assist spring bracket. And I also took a grinder to those two dome top heads, and I flattened them out to give myself the proper amount of clearance. So at this point, I can put that entire loading lever back together. Okay guys, loading lever assembly is all back together, and I reused the original square-headed fasteners here. Just like in keeping with the riveted design, this just ensures that this old girl's soul stays 100% intact, that we're not updating anything too horribly and making it too ugly, like the class of those old fasteners. But before I can put this loading lever back on, I need to fix this little surprise broken piece that I found under it when I took it apart. So we have this collar here, this side broke off. Now this is where that whole loading lever pivots here, and it looks like an old brake. It's not shiny other than where it was kind of working and moving. Doesn't look like the weld bead had very good penetration under there back in the day. So I'm going to take this opportunity to get this piece fixed up too. I think I can run a bolt through here, hold all this stuff stationary, V it out, and then weld it all around. Set up with the welder now. I did just that. I clamped everything tight with a bolt, and I've got this top portion V'd out. So what I'm going to do is probably weld the top half here, get what I can get, and then I'll unclamp, flip this thing over, and I'll do the same process on the bottom side, see if I can make it all the way around. Alright everybody, the welding went well, so I can now reinstall the repaired loading lever assembly. And finally, we'll finish up by attaching the assist spring onto its new bracket. Okay, now that everything is fully assembled, you can see why I needed to keep these rivet heads at such a low profile. When these pieces actuate, components all pass very close to one another. So, could not keep domed head rivets on that at all. But now that I've got this fixed and everything has been tightened up and it's all right again, it makes me rethink this entire mechanism. This is not so much an assist spring as it is a return spring for this loading lever. Now bear with me here, but before, with this loose running bracket and all this other slack and all these other places, the only time the spring had any tension on it was when the loading lever was in the back position, basically the non-actuated, we'll say at rest position. And as soon as I pulled it forward, this spring would go slack. And basically what I think was happening was, between all the excessive clearances between the old bracket and all these pivot points, everything just changed, the geometry changed, and it did not pull on the spring. But now, when I actuate the loading lever forward, it actually tensions that spring, and that thing makes sure that that loading lever falls back to the released position just like that. It's actually kind of a lot slicker mechanism now than it ever was. So another thing, I don't remember ever having this much pitch on that bowl. So it's amazing what taking up a little bit of slack and getting a fresh bracket in there can do for you. So I guess all we need to do now is put it in the ground and see if it still works, huh? the sun's getting pretty low in the sky. And I was out here, did quite a few rounds with this, and I'll tell you what, everything is still present and accounted for. I didn't have anything fall off, and this thing is a whole different animal from what it was before. It actually made that loading lever a little bit more difficult to pull, being that you're actually pulling against the spring tension now. But I have to say, when I release this, it pulls itself out of the cut almost immediately. And before I was mainly just relying on the draft of the hitch to do that, because it kind of wants to anyway. But basically, when I want that thing to quit digging now, it quits digging. So I kind of got to get used to it all over again. It's kind of like working with a stranger. But I got the H on the cultivator, and as you can see, I pre-loosened here for tomorrow. It's going to be dark here soon. Of course, I have a lot more of these rock things to pick out here. And just what I did tonight, probably a dozen now, 18-20 passes. Pretty much got the rock sled full again anyhow. But anyway, that is Tumblebug scraper repair. Pretty happy with it, and I'm going to keep rolling right along here. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope to see you back again.